Online dating, it sounds exciting, full of possibilities, maybe even your ticket to finding love. But what happens when things take a turn for the worst? When that friendly chat turns into a real-life nightmare? In this video, we're diving deep into 9 true online dating horror stories, raw, unnerving, and unforgettable. Each one is told by people who thought they were just meeting someone new. Instead, they walked straight into the scariest date of their life. It all starts out so innocent. A match on a dating app, a few compliments, a bit of flirting, and plans to finally meet in person. That's exactly what happened to Jenna, a 26-year-old graphic designer. She matched with a guy named Eric, charming, good-looking, said all the right things. They had similar interests, liked the same music, both had dogs. It felt like fate. But what started as a promising date at a quiet coffee shop ended with Jenna running barefoot through a parking lot, terrified for her life. Then there's Marcus, a 30-year-old who thought he was meeting a sweet girl for dinner only to realize she wasn't alone. The night spiraled into something he could never have imagined, something that still haunts him to this day. These aren't just ghost stories to spook you. These are real people who trusted too quickly, believed what they read online, and found themselves in terrifying situations they never saw coming. Online dating has changed how we connect. It's fast, convenient, and opens doors to meeting people from all walks of life. But behind those profile pictures and polished bios, not everyone is who they claim to be. That's the scary part. It could happen to anyone. These stories aren't about judging anyone for trying to find love online. They're about showing how things can go wrong when red flags are ignored, or when danger hides behind a smile. Throughout this video, you'll hear 9 true horror stories from online dating. Some are creepy, some are just downright disturbing. All of them serve as a reminder to stay cautious, trust your gut, and always prioritize your safety. From shady behavior on the first date to sudden disappearances and shocking reveals, these are the kind of stories that make you think twice before swiping right again. So grab a drink, maybe keep a light on, and settle in, because by the end of this video, you might look at your dating apps a little differently. Let's get into the first terrifying tale. Jenna had always been careful with online dating. She never shared too much too soon, always met in public places, and let her roommate know where she was going. But something about Eric made her let her guard down. He seemed different, more genuine, more mature. He wasn't pushy like some of the others. He asked about her dreams, her childhood dog, even remembered her favorite coffee order. Their chats went on for weeks before she finally agreed to meet him. They chose a quiet local cafe on a Sunday afternoon. Jenna arrived a little early, nervous but excited. She texted her roommate, "Here, he seems nice. We'll keep you posted." A few minutes later, Eric walked in. He looked just like his pictures, tall, well-dressed, friendly smile. For the first 30 minutes, everything felt normal. They talked about movies, traveling, and how dating apps can be exhausting. But slowly, something started to shift. Eric's tone became harder to read. He began asking strange questions. Things like, "Have you ever felt like someone was watching you? And do you believe people can really disappear?" Jenna laughed him off at first, thinking maybe he was just being darkly humorous. But the way he stared at her too long, too intensely, made her stomach twist. He barely blinked. Then came a story he told about a girl he dated last year. He claimed she ghosted him after one date, but his version of ghosted didn't sound right. He talked about following her Instagram stories, seeing where she'd been. "It's not stalking," he said, smiling too wide. "It's just curiosity." Jenna tried to steer the conversation back to lighter topics, but Eric kept circling back. He leaned in closer than necessary, speaking just low enough to make her lean in too. Something about his presence suddenly felt off. When she mentioned needing to leave soon to feed her dog, his mood shifted. His face dropped for a split second before he covered it with a chuckle. "Already leaving?" he asked, sounding more disappointed than someone should after a first date. She got up to leave, trying to keep things polite. As she stepped outside, she heard footsteps behind her quicker than normal. She glanced back, and Eric was just a few paces behind, not saying anything. Her heart raced. She hadn't asked him to walk her out. She hadn't even said goodbye properly. As she reached for her phone, she realized it was still on silent in her purse. What was supposed to be a safe, casual meetup was starting to feel like something else entirely. And Jenna wasn't the only one with a story like this. The next one, even more chilling. Jenna's hands fumbled in her purse as she kept walking, trying not to break into a full sprint. The cafe's parking lot wasn't busy, and the late afternoon sun was beginning to dip behind the trees, casting long shadows across the pavement. Eric's footsteps stayed close behind, steady, not running, but too close for comfort. She finally gripped her phone and glanced back. He stopped when she turned, smiled again, and said, "I just wanted to make sure you got to your car safely." Her voice shook as she thanked him, forcing a tight smile. The keys slipped slightly in her hand as she unlocked the door and got in quickly. Eric didn't move, just stood there watching her as she pulled away. She didn't relax until she turned onto the main road. Even then, her chest stayed tight. That strange feeling like something wasn't right wouldn't go away. That night, she received a message from him. "I had a great time. You're even more beautiful in person." She didn't reply. Over the next few days, the messages kept coming longer, more personal, more intense. He brought up things they hadn't even talked about. "Your apartment looks cozy," he said in one. Jenna never told him where she lived. That's when she blocked him on everything. But somehow, he kept finding new numbers, new accounts. The messages weren't threats. Not directly, but they were unsettling. Like he was watching from somewhere close. While Jenna dealt with this, another story was unfolding. A guy named Tyler had just started dating again after a breakup. He met a woman named Serena through a dating app, smart, beautiful, and mysterious. She didn't like video calls, always said her camera was broken. Still, her messages were charming, full of deep thoughts and late-night secrets. Tyler felt a connection, something he hadn't felt in a long time. When they planned to meet, she canceled last minute, saying she had a family emergency. It happened again the next weekend. Then she asked him for a favor, just a small money transfer to help cover her mom's medication. At first, Tyler refused, but she told him he was the only person she could trust. He caved. Then came more requests. Every time he tried to pull away, she guilted him, told him she needed him, said he was her only light in a dark world. What he didn't know was that Serena wasn't real. She was part of a larger online dating scam targeting vulnerable users with emotionally manipulative tactics. And Tyler wasn't her only victim. The deeper these stories go, the darker they become. From psychological manipulation to chilling, real-world encounters, these true online dating horror stories show how the search for love can sometimes uncover something far more dangerous. And we're just getting started. Jenna hadn't slept properly in days. Even with the blinds shut and her phone on airplane mode, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. Every creak in the hallway, every flicker of light outside, made her jump. She told herself it was all in her head, that blocking Eric should have been the end of it. But one night, she found a handwritten note slipped under her apartment door. It simply read, "You looked beautiful today." Her heart sank. She hadn't posted any photos. Had he followed her again? She contacted the building manager, asked if security cameras had picked up anything, but the footage was conveniently missing from that night. Jenna called the police. They filed a report but said unless there was a direct threat or trespassing, there wasn't much they could do. The system felt like it wasn't built to handle subtle fear of the kind that creeps in quietly and lingers. Across town, Tyler's world was unraveling too. After weeks of sending money, he finally stopped responding. Serena or whoever was behind the screen started sending messages with strange threats disguised as guilt. "I told you things I've never told anyone. You don't get to just walk away." One message included a photo of his car in the grocery store parking lot, taken just hours earlier. That was the moment he realized this wasn't just some online trick anymore. Someone knew where he was, what he drove, even his routine. At the same time, another story was brewing. This one from Rachel, a school teacher who thought she'd met a kind-hearted man through a parenting group online. He seemed understanding, supportive, always said the right things. But after their first date, he showed up uninvited at her work, then again at her kid's school. He claimed it was coincidence, said he lived nearby. But when she blocked him, he began emailing from new addresses every day, even showing up with flowers at her gym. No matter where she went, he was there, never violent, never loud, just present. Always watching. These weren't just isolated dating app horror stories anymore. Each one felt like a web tightening around the people caught inside. The danger wasn't always dramatic or explosive, it was subtle, patient, calculated, and that's what made it worse. The fear wasn't just about one terrifying date. It was about not knowing where the boundary was between connection and obsession. The tension in each life was building fast, inching toward something they couldn't quite see but could definitely feel. As Jenna began checking over her shoulder every time she left home, as Tyler debated going to the police, and Rachel started sleeping with the lights on, one thing became clear. The scariest part of these online dating experiences wasn't just meeting the wrong person, it was realizing that once the line was crossed, it might already be too late to turn back. Jenna thought things couldn't get worse. But then something unexpected happened. Eric vanished. No more texts, no more notes, no signs near her apartment. At first, it felt like a relief. Maybe he had finally gotten bored. Maybe blocking him worked. But just as her nerves began to settle, she received a message from an unknown number. "You trust people to isolate." Her breath caught. There was no name, no photo, no profile, just those 5 words. Then, within minutes, another. "I know where you work now." That message hit differently. It wasn't just creepy, it was a threat disguised as observation. Jenna didn't know if it was Eric or someone else entirely. She rushed to her supervisor and explained everything. Security was alerted, and cameras around the school were double-checked. That's when things took a turn she didn't expect. Footage showed a man near the staff parking lot, but it wasn't Eric, it was someone else. Someone she had never seen before. He lingered near her car, pretending to check his phone, then circled back and looked into her windows. Police were called again, but since he hadn't done anything illegal, they couldn't detain him. Jenna's gut told her it wasn't a random stalker. Someone had passed her information on someone who knew where she'd be. Meanwhile, Tyler began investigating on his own. He started searching forums about online dating scams and came across a thread warning users about a group targeting lonely men through fake profiles. But what really shook him was a photo posted by someone else, an image of Serena. It was the exact same profile picture, same bio, same name. But the man who posted it lived in another state. He had sent money, too, more than Tyler, and he mentioned something even more disturbing, that after cutting her off, his apartment was broken into and only his laptop was taken. Tyler suddenly realized this was far bigger than a one-time scam. He wasn't just being played, he was being tracked. At the same time, Rachel received an email from someone claiming to be a private investigator. The message warned her that the man she went on a date with, Daniel, wasn't who he said he was. The email included a blurry photo of Daniel with a different name printed across the bottom. Stephen Marsh, Missing Persons 2019. Her hands trembled as she read through the message. Was someone playing a twisted prank? Or had she just spent time alone with someone who had completely erased his past? The puzzle pieces weren't adding up, but the unease was growing faster. All three of them, Jenna, Tyler, and Rachel, thought they were dealing with isolated incidents. But now, new questions started forming. Was this just a string of dating app horror stories? Or was something connecting them all? The danger wasn't over. It was just beginning. Jenna finally couldn't take the anxiety anymore. With every message, every shadow, she felt more trapped. She reached out to a local cybercrime unit, desperate for answers. What she didn't expect was for them to connect the dots in a way she never saw coming. Eric wasn't acting alone. He was part of a small but highly organized group that used dating apps to target and track women, passing personal data through private online channels. The man seen at her work, another one of their watchers. Her case wasn't just about one stalker, it was part of something bigger. Authorities had already been gathering pieces from similar complaints across the city, and Jenna's report became the final link they needed. Meanwhile, Tyler dug deeper into the forums and connected with the man who had posted Serena's photo. Together, they found several others. Fake profiles, same story, romance, manipulation, blackmail. He compiled every screenshot, bank transaction, and message chain, and brought it all to the local authorities. Just days later, 3 arrests were made across different states. The people behind Serena weren't who he imagined they were. A couple running multiple fake identities, using emotional bait to pull money from vulnerable men. One of the laptops recovered had a list of over 40 usernames and passwords, including Tyler's. Rachel, shaken by the strange email, decided to meet with the private investigator in person. She arrived at a public cafe with a friend secretly recording nearby. When the man showed her additional files and IDs, her heart sank. The man she knew as Daniel had changed identities multiple times and had a criminal record under each name. Her story led to a breakthrough in another case where a woman had gone missing after meeting him. Rachel's tip helped law enforcement track him down. He was arrested weeks later, living under yet another alias in a small town 2 hours away. Each of their stories ended with justice, but not the kind that felt victorious, more like exhausted relief. They had escaped something dangerous, something invisible, until it was too close to run from. But just as life started settling down, the twist no one saw coming arrived. Jenna received a package in the mail, no return address. Inside was a single Polaroid picture, her sitting in the cafe with Eric. It had been taken from outside, through the window, before their date had even started. Written on the back were just 3 words. Asterisk, you were chosen. Asterisk, the horror wasn't in what had already happened. It was in realizing that someone else somewhere out there was still watching. Jenna stared at the Polaroid, heart pounding, but instead of panic, something inside her shifted. She took the photo straight to the cybercrime unit, and they opened a deeper investigation. The image became a vital clue confirming that she'd been marked before she ever swiped right. That detail, chilling as it was, helped uncover even more victims. The case spread into multiple states, and several individuals connected to the same hidden network were identified and arrested. For Jenna, Tyler, and Rachel, it didn't erase what happened, but it gave them closure. They weren't alone, and most importantly, they were finally safe. Tyler started a blog about online dating safety, sharing his story and warning others about common red flags and emotional scams. His transparency helped dozens come forward with their own experiences. Rachel returned to her life but became an advocate for better background checks and support systems for online dating platforms. She spoke at community events, encouraging others to trust their instincts and always prioritize personal safety. Jenna moved to a new apartment, changed her routine, and deleted all dating apps, but she didn't let fear win. What she learned stayed with her, that trust should be earned slowly, and that not all connections are what they seem. These true online dating horror stories aren't meant to scare people away from finding love, but to remind everyone that, behind a screen, danger can wear a charming smile. Stay alert, stay smart, because sometimes, the scariest date of your life doesn't look scary until it's too late.